meeting is held remotely, to ensure that the meeting proceeds effectively, there's a couple of additional points I would now like to just bring to your attention. So these are, number one, it's even more important when the meetings are being recorded that it's only the person that's speaking who has their microphone on. This is because the recording will pick up any noise and the camera will go there. So maybe if you're not expecting it, you don't want to be the centre of attention, and it'll draw away from the speaker. So if you just keep your microphones on mute unless you're coming in to speak, okay? For the same reason, it's important that there's a short pause between speakers. And number three, the contents of any show conversation instant messages sent on the Teams system will be shown on the recording. Okay, members who are accessing their phone should keep their phone silent until being asked to speak. And before moving on to the agenda, can I now ask the clerk to do a roll call vote on members so it's clear who's present for the, and then I'll move on to the agenda. Okay.
So we've got Councillors Brown, yourself, Councillor McGregor, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Kerr, Councillor Graham, Councillor Steele. I think that's it.
Okay, and I see there's Mark here from the Roads Department, you know, so he'll be able to answer any questions, whatever, as well, Alistair. And Paul, he's a clerk there, so he'll be recording everything for us, okay?
Thank you.
So we'll just get down to the items on the agenda then. So first things first, do we have any apologies? Sorry, did you already say that? All right, okay. And do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Campbell.
Yes, it's just a small one, just because in the text in the actual petition itself mentions Gavin Newlands MP. I'm a constituency support officer, but I have not been involved in this case in the work that I've done for him, so I will be staying and participating in the item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Campbell. Okay, if there's no more declarations of interest, we'll just get down to the items of business. So that's the petition for traffic calming measures in Oxford Road in Renfrew. So Alistair, what we'd normally ask you to do would be for you to present now. We've obviously got it here in writing, your petition, but if you want to run through it or you want to elaborate on it in any way, the floor is yours, Alistair, okay? So
I don't think so. I think what we've said in the petition statement is really all that needs requires saying. Would you agree, Malcolm? Yeah, it's basically just, I mean, you don't want to get to
want to just bottom it, where where we can go with it. You know, if we understand it collectively. Grievance is not quite the right word, but if the fears that we have, and if we can transmit that to your good selves, then we can see what we can do, where we can go with it. Essentially, as I see it.
Yes, exactly. Since putting in this the statement to your good selves, we had a couple of motorbikes, not last week because I was on holiday, the week before, and one of them did a wheelie quite nicely from the start of Oxford Road to Paisley Road down to past Cambridge Road. I don't know if you know Renfrew terribly well, but that was a very good wheelie, I might add. You know, but bearing in mind that the junction at Cambridge Road and Oxford Road can be quite dangerous at times. In fact, that I'm aware of, there's been 2 accidents there, and as I say in the petition, thankfully it was only metalwork that was bashed, and maybe a few egos, but apart from that, that was all. So, I've been in the street now for, well, I don't know, almost 40 years, and traffic increases and all that kind of good stuff. But since the introduction of the traffic lights at Oxford Road and Paisley Road, the traffic has just zoomed up, really. It's just incredible the amount of traffic. It's now being used as a shortcut, and fair enough, but we don't mind that. It's just the speed at which they go at is incredible. And if you're coming from the Sandy Road end and they see a green light, and
they have to make it.
They have to make it, exactly. And they fly at that, right? And also next door to me here, Mrs. Burgoyne, her car was written off by a car coming around from Paisley Road into Oxford Road. And I don't know what happened, but wrote Mrs. Burgoyne's car off. Whether she'd had a flat tyre, skidded, I don't know anything. But that's as a result of that. And was one time, now this is admittedly a couple of years back, when a local Porsche dealer, one of his what do you call it, mechanics came and did a test drive. And I didn't have any guns to measure speed or any of that kind of stuff, but he must have been doing well over 60, that guy, well over it. And I'm not exaggerating, that is honest truth. And I thought, this is ridiculous. So much so that I went out to the Porsche garage and asked to speak to the manager and said, we don't mind you using it as a test, but we don't want to go at these excessive speeds. And since then, we've had an influx of babies into the street. Not my own, I might add, but that was a long time ago. So we've had that, and we've now got grandkids, of which I have, coming to the house, and it's scary. You're taking them out to the car and you're holding them. You don't want to get anywhere near that street just because they're flying up and down.
The other thing as well, there's peak periods in the morning and at night, which we understand and fully accept, but the peak periods tend to coincide with the periods at school. For example, kids are going to school at 8:30, a bleak 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then the roads are very, very busy with cars. Now most of them are because people, other our neighbours sometimes park in the road. They have to. Down the bottom end, we have our own driveway. That's fine, but up from about Cambridge Road up, they don't have their own driveway. So there's cars parked and the road narrows. The road was naturally a very wide road in the beginning, probably prompting this road to become now a main road. It used to be a side road, it's now a main road. And it's also, as I see it, when you're going towards Renfrew, there's quite a long wait at the traffic to turn right up Glebe Street.
Yeah.
So people say, well, we can avoid that, and they all use Oxford Road.
Yeah, and when you get bigger HGV type vehicles, and this is again the honest truth, I've checked with a few other householders, the houses actually shake, right? And I don't know if that happens.
Yeah, it does. And these are old houses, but substantial houses. They're red sandstone.
Yeah.
And they're double bricked walls to the side and rear, so fairly substantial buildings. But whatever ground they're on, there's a reverberation when anything over 30 tons goes up there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, most of the guys, to be fair, drive at a normal pace. But sometimes you get a guy who's late for his work or whatever, and he knows he's driving a 40 tonner. I've got to get somewhere kind of quick, and that's when it knocks the ornaments off their mantelpiece and stuff like that.
Not that I've got me, but I'll tell you one guy who's doing it now on a more regular basis is the Grant people in Paisley.
Yeah.
Right. He's coming down here with a pretty heavy truck loaded with building materials, bricks, the whole 9 yards, and it's really, really, making the house shake. So much so that Alec Burgoyne next door, he says that there's a stank cover, for I don't know what the fancy word for that is, in Paisley Road, and when something goes over that, his house shakes, and that's from Paisley Road into it. Now, I know there's nothing you can do about that, but I would imagine, not being a road builder or a road engineer, that the construction of the road from Paisley Road, as Malcolm was saying, might have been different because it was, I presume, classed as a main road.
Yeah.
And way back in the days of yore, when Renfrew was almost a farm, down at the bottom, when there was a wall there, and after the wall there was farmland basically, and at the back of our house, right down to the town hall, was also part of that farm. Cows were there, so the road, I would imagine, consequently wasn't built to the same standard as the main Paisley Road. And I may well be wrong in saying that, but I think that might be the case.
What we will have to take cognizance of, Alistair, it's a debate for another day, but when they do look at putting speed calming measures in, you're going to have to look at what kind of speed calming measures, because I know for the fact the problems I have in Arkleson Road is HGVs going over the speed measures, the actual bumps. That makes the vibration 100 times worse, so a lot of times people ask for these and then want them out, so there will have to be consideration about what measures are put in place. But also, let me tell you what we can do,
Can I add one thing, Councillor McGregor? See, yes. You come from Renfrew, I take it?
Yeah, well, I come from Paisley, but I know Renfrew pretty well.
You've emigrated to Renfrew.
I have.
The High Street in Renfrew, and you go up, and the new houses that were built, there's from High Street into Ferry Road, I think it's called Ferry Road, there's speed bump, we'll call them speed bumps, but it's actually raised levels of the road and a fair distance of raised level. So that you've got to go up, drive for a bit and then come down again.
You go into a plateau, it's not a sleeping
plateau.
policeman where
Correct,
it's a couple of bumps in the road, it's actually a plateau. And you
Right.
drive onto that and then drive off after, guess, 10 yards or so.
That's right. So that's the kind of thing we had in mind, you know, but you know, we're open obviously to sort of advice as to what's the right thing.
No worries. Let me bring in the councillors. I see that Andy, your hand was up first. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, convener. Yes, afternoon, gentlemen. I think
Thank you.
Fairly compelling. As always in these things, if people would just drive properly, they wouldn't be half the problems. But
I'll go
if
along
somebody
with
can work that one out, then they'll be a very rich person indeed. I've got a question I think is probably best suited for Mark. It's regarding the point Mr. McLean and Mr. Robbie raised about the HGVs going down this road. Is it possible to put in some form of like a goalpost, essentially a large-scale goalpost that would prevent vehicles above a certain height getting down a road? Is there any sort of infrastructure that can do that?
Yeah, but that wouldn't then stop the cars speeding.
No, it's a specific question about the point you raised.
Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah, the
that's
road's
feasible.
Yeah, the road's wide enough.
Absolutely.
And there's lamp posts in it too, which go up a fair height. So yeah, to put a goalpost arrangement in there, which I've seen elsewhere. Yeah, that can be done.
I'm just looking at Mr. Higginbottom's face agrees with you.
I have seen chicane measures as well, and other towns, if you like, where they have to go through. It takes a straight edge. It takes a straight line out because Paisley Road to Sandy Road is a direct straight line. It's as I say, it's a wide road. Even with cars parked each side at the top end, Sandy Road end, there's still enough room for one car. Quite a lot of room. There's enough room there to give a speeding car the confidence he thinks he has got to get to the other end. What he's not taking into consideration is kids. There's not many kids play, but it only needs one kid to try and cross between two cars, and there's any amount of history of that. I think.
Okay, Mark, would you like to come in and Councillor Steele's question? I need to go and shut a window. Sorry, I'm getting work done outside.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Time for summer. 2 seconds.
Yeah, I'd never make a poker player, would I, Councillor? But there you go. I think it's highly unlikely that we would ever put goalposts up to prevent the legitimate use of the public road network by a certain kind of vehicle. We can think of other things to do to dissuade HGVs from using roads that aren't appropriate for their use. But from the way that Oxford Road's been described, it's a perfectly ordinary, wide enough carriageway in the middle of a town that HGVs have every right to be on, just like any other vehicle. And in fact, lots of delivery wagons would want to get there if they're delivering to a house on that street. So that would be almost impossible for us to enforce. But what we can do is we can organise a sample speed survey and look at the problem that you've described. We need to justify to ourselves that there is a problem. And I'm not doubting for a minute that you're absolutely right in what you say. But we need to prove it to ourselves. So we need to do some factual surveys. Where you could help me is by giving me an idea of whereabouts on the road you feel is the worst problem and when in the day, and we can time our survey to suit. And then we'll be sure that we've caught it at its worst, as it were.
That's between the Paisley Road and Cambridge Road, without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
As I said before, the houses between Paisley Road and Cambridge Road are detached houses and semis, so they have their own driveways. There tends not to be as many roads, many cars parked at the side of the roads, although because people now have more than one car in each family, it can be the case. But anyhow, the number of cars at this end is less than the other end because they get into terraced houses there. That's right. And people then have they've got their little car and it's both sides. Right. But as I say, it's the road was wide enough to accommodate that and flow through traffic. It's if you like, the average Mr. Joe Average, good guy, we'd all be happy. It's the young loony that wants to, I'm going to get to the end of this road and break the sound barrier.
Yeah, well,
That's
there's only certain amount of things that the council can do against that kind of a driver. And of course, the police is your first port of call for those kind of people who just will not be told that they can't speed. But as far as doing our little survey goes, what time of day, you mentioned peak hours before, but what time of day would be best suited, do you think, for us to go down there?
Probably the morning and the sort of late afternoon, that kind of time is probably the best time.
Give me some specifics. What we're talking, 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock?
8 till 10. I would say between 8
Yeah.
to 10. I would say between 4 till 6:30 at least. I would think.
Yeah.
Alice, would you not agree?
I would totally agree, actually. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
And the other thing is, came out the road just on Saturday. I was back home on Friday, and I went round from Oxford Road into Paisley Road. And as I turned in to Paisley Road, the lights changed to amber, and I stopped because the next one was going to be red. But the guy behind me didn't, because it didn't apply to him. He went straight through the amber, straight through the red, and up Cambridge. What do you call it? Craigley Road. And he no cognizance of whatsoever. Just lights don't apply to me. I just go, and that's it. And thankfully I was there. Otherwise, he'd been hammering down that road just to make sure that he got that traffic light. And as I said in the petition statement, that one of the times the police were at the door, were talking about this guy flew by, and I said, "Need I say more?" And they were going to do this and we're going to do that, but as we all know, it cuts everywhere. There are not so many police around anymore to stand by and watch that kind of thing. But it really is, we're honestly not exaggerating here. It really is quite bad.
No. Well, before I make my recommendations, Alice, I'll bring in Councillor Hughes. I see your hand's been up for a while. On you come, Lisa.
Thanks, Chair. Hi, Alistair and Malcolm. I'm Lisa Marie and I happen to be one of your ward councillors, so I know the area and the issues fairly well. I think that what Mark has suggested in terms of doing a survey, and then I would assume Councillor Adam McGregor might be asking for it to be taken to the board in future to look at what we could do if that was required, and if not, to be dealt with by officers. I think that's a good move if you're both happy with it, particularly because, as Mark might have touched on, we have a bit of work going on around all of the traffic in that area. You both know that between Paisley and Sandy Road there are issues across all of the road, and Mark and the department have been doing quite a lot of work over the last period, so this will add into it, and it will also mean that we can get the information perhaps on how it affects other streets, how it's affected by other streets as well. So I'm happy to see it here, so I want to say thank you to you both for bringing it, because the better we can make the roads for people in Renfrew, the better it is for all of us, I think. So if you two would be happy with that, I'd be happy with it as well. And I just, thank you.
Good to see it moving.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah,
that's. You can have this meeting and we all close the book and go about our daily business and say, what was that about? That maybe wouldn't be very good, but if we can, and we know that these things take time, but we've lived with it for such a long time now that we can probably afford to wait a while longer for it, as long as it turns out to be a good decision and a good action as an outcome.
Councillor Higginbottom.
What is within the gift of this board to do? There'll be a decision, either it goes no further or we revert it to the relevant policy board with our recommendations, or we put it to the Scottish Government. That's what's within the gift of this board to do. So my recommendations would be that we wait for, we get Mark's samplings with the statistics back on it. Now, once that comes back, we direct that to the Infrastructure, Land and Environment Policy Board. And that is where the elected members sit on. We'll be able to have the figures in front of us by that time, and then we can make a decision on it from there. But that's what I would. So your petition's been absolutely successful today, Alistair. I would recommend that is what we do. I see there's still a couple of hands up here. Neil, is your hand up?
Hi, thanks. Thanks, Chair, for bringing me in. It was just a few points. Thanks to Alistair and Malcolm for bringing it to the board. I spoke to Councillor Jane Strang the other day when I seen this was coming up, and this is something that Jane said that she would look, Councillor Strang said that she would look into. I think the main problem, I think from me, is I think the main problem is the traffic lights at Oxford Road. I think personally, I think that those need to be taken away and have like a left turn only on it. But that's just a personal point of view. I think the lights at Glebe Street on the High Street are just absolutely shocking. The amount of time that cars need to wait there.
3.5 minutes.
That's where it backs up onto Oxford Road if you're going towards Renfrew, because people then get to know if I juke down here, I'm through. I'm through that.
You know, I absolutely agree with that, and I think maybe the council need to look at that, either the waiting time at Glebe Street, if that can be quickened up.
Well,
or
you know that, Mark, that we look at the timescale for these traffic lights that are apparently running so low that's creating a backup. Is that something that you can put down as part of our recommendations as well, that we look at these, just even the timing of them, because that certainly seems to be a long time, doesn't it?
The Glebe Street signals have been known to have this particular difficulty for quite some time, and it's not as if this is the first time we've had to deal with it. We've tried on countless occasions to try to reduce the amount of time that drivers are having to wait at the Glebe Street signals. Sadly, it's because of the geography of that particular junction and it being so spread out that we need to build into those signal timings enough time for people to get safely off the junction before we let the next stream of traffic go, or a pedestrian for that matter. That means that you are necessarily waiting a reasonable amount of time before your turn comes round, but your turn will come round. Be patient. The difficulty we have with that junction at the minute is that drivers aren't being patient and they're jumping the lights or using an inappropriate lane to make an inappropriate turn. And in doing so, they're endangering everybody else's lives when they do it.
Yep, I'd go on with that.
Yeah, we're not unaware of the difficulties with Glebe Street, but we have tried our best to make it as quick as a journey as we possibly can for most people. And sadly, we're in that position because of the geography of the junction. And we just ask drivers to be patient. They will get their turn.
The other thing with regard to that, if I may come in, is what's called the barrack buildings in Renfrew, which is the sandstone flats just before the traffic lights there. There's a row of cars there which takes out a lane. So you're wanting one lane then going into that junction, one going up Glebe Street, another, well, three, Glebe Street, the Hare Street, and then up in Shinnon Road. So you've got that to contend with as well. And if I might say, there was a survey done maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, with the box and the two strips across the street, yeah. And my friend who had it organised got a letter back saying that it was only 40% of the drivers that were speeding, and as such there'd be no further action taken. And I went, oh, that's cool. So 40% of the people were quite happy to speed, and nothing can be done. You know, I appreciate that.
Well, that's very high, isn't it?
It's very high. The police, as I said earlier, that you're down to 1 and 2 guys for I don't know. There's just not enough policemen around nowadays, but that's another issue altogether, of course. So if that's the kind of survey you're talking about, sorry, Mark, are you a councillor or?
No, I'm an officer, Alistair. I'm an officer of the roads department. Yeah.
So can I just address you as Mark then? Or?
Of course you can. Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. If you're going to put one, well, I've never been involved in government, so I don't know how people get addressed or whatever. Anyway, if that
we call them, Alistair.
Sorry.
You want to hear what we call them?
I'm sure that's not the case.
Charming.
Because you're working with a lot of friends, Mark. Anyway. If that box could be hidden, I know it's a silly thing to say, but a lot of people see that box if it's the two strips across the street connected to the box.
The speed survey equipment. Yeah. No, this will be a chappie in a car with a gun. We'll hide him to one side and make sure nobody can see him.
Oh, that's all great. That would be handy.
Yeah. And as far as the speed survey is concerned, as you spoke about, 40% speeding's all right. That's not the limit that we take nowadays. We insist that 85% of the people are driving under the speed limit.
Right.
So if there's any more than 15% driving over the speed limit, that's our trigger to act. to do
Fantastic.
something. I'm not suggesting what it might be, but it just gives us a trigger point
Right.
to look further
Can I
into
just
it.
bring in Councillor Campbell here? She had her hand up for a while. Michelle, come on in.
Thank you very much, convener. I know the strip of road that you've been speaking about, gentlemen. So thank you for bringing this to the board. I do think that there are, like you said, that it's like a ripple effect. If there's other issues, it can cause issues. But I think even if you change some of those issues, the issue where you are at Oxford Street would remain to still have its issues, because there's a couple of roads for various reasons people would use them and then come down Oxford. So I think that it's absolutely valid, the petition that you've brought.
Yeah.
I am a member of the ILE board, so I'm very keen to see that come to the board. So I just wanted to express my thanks and gratitude for a member of the community bringing this to the board, and also to say that I'll be supportive of the recommendation being put forward by Councillor Adam McGregor and by Councillor Hughes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Campbell.
Oh,
See,
thank
we're
you.
not adverse to cars driving up and down the road. Just stick within the speed limit, for goodness sake, and
That's really that's the biggest bugbear of all. You understand the wagons. Yeah, for example, deliveries have to be made. Mr. Grant, for example, could be wanting to deliver stuff to my place, so I kind of need him there at certain times. It's the issue of speed, and even a 40 tonner going at a moderate pace, if you like, within the law, under 30 miles an hour, would be manageable.
Now, listen, we as a council welcome these kind of petitions coming to us, because it shouldn't take something tragic to happen before there's any action taken. So if we can get in there and identify a speed issue and put in the measures that you're asking for, then that's what we're here to do. So that would absolutely be my recommendation, Paul and Mark, that we refer this to the Infrastructure Land Environment Board once you have the results of your speed sampling. And then once we've got those results, then the Infrastructure Land Environment Board can take a decision on it. Now, I sit in the Infrastructure Board, so does Michelle, and so does Councillor Graham that spoke earlier. So you've got 3 members here that are very supportive of it. So I'm sure that. Okay, so I just want to thank you all for your time here today. I hope you feel you've been listened to, and I look forward to giving you some good news in the future.
Good. And as by the way, just a total by the way, nothing to do with Oxford Road and speeding. Could you commend the people who were involved in getting the Robertson Park up to scratch? What a fantastic difference that has made. Absolutely top notch. So whoever was involved in that, if you could pass on our grateful thanks. It's a lovely place now to walk in, and it's just
a couple of Renfrew councillors here. Councillor Hughes, there she is.
Totally fabulous.
I've lived in Renfrew all my days, so
thank you for that. That was really good.
Great to hear. Great to hear.
Sorry, I have to say, Mr. McLennan, I think myself and my colleague, Councillor John Shaw, have been all for this, but particularly in terms of things like the lighting and things, I have to say it has been a pet project of John's, and since the very moment we were elected, he has been pushing that forward, and I think the lights look fantastic, so I'll pass that on to him for you.
Absolutely brilliant, you know. I mean, I've been in Renfrew for a long time. If we're taking up your time, tell me to be quiet and I'll go.
It's okay, I've got a wee bit.
Do you mind if I leave, convener? I've got another meeting at half.
Yes, when you go, Councillor Steele. Thank you.
Thank you. Way back in the days of yore, round the pond in the park, do you know there were the lights there? And at Christmas time, right, the winter, when the water was frozen, people used to skate there, and it was absolutely fabulous. It really was. But that's totally the side. But listen, thank you for your time. Thank you for your input, and we'll look forward to hearing from you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All the best. Take care. Thank you for attending. Thank you, Lisa. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.